I started my career with a vision to change the world. At the wise and energetic age of 22, I decided I was going to fix politics. Judging by the state of the world today, you might have noticed I was not successful. But I still want to tell you about it. Me and a great group of co-founders started a tech startup, a website that would help people and politicians communicate effectively. And this wasn't just a website. We poured our souls into this. We really thought about it. We talked to thousands of people. We maxed out our credit cards. We worked for years on very little salary just to try to make this vision a reality. One time, we were at a startup presentation here in Austria called the World Summit Awards. We were presenting our startup, and a jury member in the audience raised her hand, and she asked us a question we had never been asked before. How do you measure your social impact? And I said, well, what a great question, thank you. You see, we're connecting people and politicians, right? So here's our user numbers, here's how many conversations and, impact. And her hand slowly rose again, and she said, sorry, but that's not really impact. What changed as a result of your work? I didn't really get it then, but I got it soon. Eventually, we realized our platform wasn't really making impact. No new policies or light bulb moments, no new realizations or changes of mind. And eventually, it became like 90% of startups, and it failed. For the last 14 years, I've been working with social entrepreneurs, people starting startups that do something good for the world. And I kept coming back to this idea of social impact measurement. I kept sitting in the audience and seeing startups that had a great vision to make so much impact without the evidence to prove it. And I started being the person in the audience raising my hand and saying, sorry, what change has happened because of your work? And I found generally social entrepreneurs fell into two groups, those who could prove it and those that couldn't. Those that couldn't repeatedly over the years fell off the radar. Their organizations closed, or they couldn't grow. At the very least, they couldn't scale the impact that they were making because they couldn't measure it. So I figured I'll learn about social impact measurement. So I Googled it. I found three things: a 42-page PDF, a UN framework, and a migraine. So I decided, okay, I have to maybe come up with my own system for taking change makers from zero impact to their first step. I'd like to share that with you today because I think there might be change makers listening to this talk. And if you can measure the impact you're making, you can increase it. All right, so this is the core concept. If you can tell the difference between an output and an outcome, you can measure social impact. Let's talk about these two concepts. An output is what people reach for when they're trying to tell you something's working. I just launched a new website. We had 1,000 visitors in a day. Or I just did a workshop. 200 people showed up. Outputs are good, but they're only half the story. What changed for the people that came to the workshop? Or did any new perception happen for the people that encountered your work? If we want to understand change, we've got to go deeper than outputs. We have to look at outcomes. An outcome is the change that occurred because of your work. So let's make it real with an example. A group of people wants to help students find jobs after graduation. So they hold workshops at a school. They do some work on their resumes. They help them with job interviewing, maybe give them some digital skills training. And they tell you, 2,000 people attended our workshops. That's important, but it's an output. It doesn't say what changed. It doesn't say if the workshops worked. Maybe they just came for the free pizza. But an outcome can tell you that it worked. What if that same group of people told you 50% of students find a job after graduation, but the students that come to our workshop, 85% of them find a job within 6 months of graduation? Whoa, right? Now we know something's working. There's an actual change that's occurred. Now, buried within that outcome, there's actually two measurements. Did you catch them? The first one is what we call the baseline. Think of it as a before measurement. It's the status before you came along. That's normally 50% of students find a job within 6 months of graduation. Then they did their work, whatever that is, in this case, a workshop, and they measured again. The second measurement found 85% of the students who went through their workshops got a job within 6 months of graduation. That's it. That's the formula. And it actually only involves 2 questions, one before the work and one after the work. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, okay, that's jobs and employment, but my work is about changing minds, or my work is about getting people to participate, or making things better, faster, cheaper for people. But that formula is at the basis of every social impact measurement journey in the world. And I'll give you some examples. Right here in Austria, there's an app called Totoi. Totoi helps people understand really complicated government documents. So imagine people who don't speak German, who might be immigrants to the country, or just find the Austrian government a bit confusing. I'm sure that doesn't apply to anyone here. You take a photo of the document, and an AI will chat you through what's in the document. What do you need to do about this? And give you some practical solutions to deal with whatever the letter says. So how does Totoi measure its impact? They sat a group of people in a room and said, hey, figure out what to do with this document. The first thing they did, pick up their phone, call their friend, call their cousin who had gone through this process. They asked questions. They took a photo of the document and sent it to a friend who spoke German, and the friend gave them advice, but it was different than the cousin, so they Googled it, and they found a Reddit post from 2021, and it took them 33 minutes to figure out what to do with the document. You give them Totoi, 3 minutes. No panic, no calls, just answer. For Totoi, impact means faster, but it's also the absence of fear. One more example, one of my favorite ones. An activist in California was going door to door, talking to people to try to encourage them to vote in favor of codifying gay marriage into law. This person would knock on someone's door, they'd open the door, and they'd have a clipboard there. Hello, I'm collecting information about the upcoming referendum about gay marriage in California. How likely are you to vote against gay marriage, 1 through 10? And a particular voter said, 8. Probably, I'll vote against it. But the activist wasn't there to collect information. He was there to change minds. He is a gay man, and he talked about his sexuality, about his life, about his struggle in society, being accepted. The voter asked some questions. They had a human conversation. And at the end of it, the activist asked again, how likely are you to vote against gay marriage? And the voter thought for a minute and said, 5? Now, that's not about website visits. That's not about app downloads. There's no output there. It's only one person. But it's the change of someone's mind that's meaningful. The measurement brings the meaning. So here's my challenge to all of you. Dream up the outcome you wish you could say about your work. It might be that you're changing minds, or that you're making things faster, or more affordable, or more accessible to people. You're already doing the hard work. What kind of question could you put before and after your work that prove that it's working? I know that there are change makers watching this talk. I feel your passion, and I see your passion and your drive to create impact. I am sure you will create impact. I dare you to prove it. Thank you.